free to be whoever you want to be. Feel free to dance, feel free to sing, just feel free. Feels like the world is picking on ya. Feels like it's picking.
Well, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Two Tone Talk Podcast, episode 22, the Derrick Henry episode 22. And it's good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Wherever you're listening, whether it's on Spotify, Apple, SoundCloud, or on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe to the Two Tone Talk YouTube channel, as well as following me on Twitter at Two Tone Talk. Boy, do we got a lot to talk about today on episode 22. The Super Bowl, the grandest spectacle in sports, was last night, and the Kansas City Chiefs are the champions of the world once again, 38-35 over the Philadelphia Eagles. According to Travis Kelce at the post-game interview, apparently nobody picked the Chiefs. Nobody thought that the Chiefs could possibly win the Super Bowl, which is the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. We see this all the time with athletes and coaches and things like that who just make up their own adversity. I think we saw it with Kirby Smart, the head coach of the Georgia Bulldogs, when they won the national championship. They're like, man, this team overcame so much adversity. A lot of naysayers, a lot of people who didn't think we could do it. It's like, who? Georgia was the favorite all year. They were the overwhelming favorite all year. That's how I felt last night with Travis Kelce in the post-game deal. He's like, you all bet against it. Nobody thought we could do it. It's like, what? I mean, I'll get to this in a second, but yes, there were people who thought the Chiefs might take a step back without Tyreek Hill. But the very idea, I think, based on what they've done for the last 5 years, I think most of us pretty much always view the Chiefs as a legitimate threat to win the whole thing because of their quarterback and head coach alone. Like, I think most of us view the Chiefs and always view the Chiefs, as a strong contender, at least. So the idea that Travis Kelce would be like, nobody thought we could do it. It's like, what? We see it all the time. Athletes just making up their own adversity. But yes, Super Bowl has concluded, which means the season is officially over, which means the official offseason has begun. Although for teams like the Titans, the offseason began a month ago, But the season's over. We move on now. You can feel the newness and the freshness in the air as everybody, other than Chiefs fans, I think Chiefs fans are going to want to dwell on this for a little while, and understandably so. But as for the other 31 teams, we're all looking to next year already. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But let's talk about the Super Bowl first. Obviously, the Titans have a new offensive coordinator in Tim Kelly. We're going to talk about that. But this is the Super Bowl episode, so we got to talk about the Super Bowl. Brody Ledford in the chat already has brought up one of the key elements of this game last night for Titans fans, and that is A.J. Brown, who had a good game last night. A nice touchdown catch in the first half, made some big plays. I think he might have had over 100 yards receiving. If not, he was right on the doorstep. He played really well. And Titans fans were divided yesterday. Some Titans fans were rooting for AJ. They wanted to see AJ get a ring. Then there were some Titans fans who were blatantly rooting against AJ and did not want to see him win. I will go ahead and tell you, as for me, I'm not going to say I was rooting for the Chiefs because I don't think I have it in me to root for the Chiefs. But I was definitely rooting against the Eagles last night. That would have just been too much for my Tennessee Titans heart to take. To see A.J. Brown holding up the Lombardi Trophy. I don't think I would have been able to take it. I don't think I would have been able to take it. So I will tell you, my disdain for AJ Brown has definitely died down as I now tend to believe the main culprit of that whole fiasco was John Robinson, and he paid for it with his job. But yeah, I don't think I could have handled watching AJ Brown hold the trophy up. So I was rooting against the Eagles last night just because I just it was a rough season for Tennessee. Lost 7 in a row, 8 in a row, whatever it was to end the year. A disaster. A season that we can't wait to forget. And I just think ending it with A.J. Brown winning a Super Bowl would have just been too much. It would have been too much. So I was rooting against the Eagles last night. Someone in the chat has now noted the Indianapolis Colts are more than likely getting the Eagles offensive coordinator as their new head coach. I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about the Eagles offensive coordinator. I'm not going to pretend to know exactly where this puts the Colts. But I will say, I mean, looking at how good the Eagles offense was this season, I would assume it's at least a pretty good hire for Indianapolis, and the pressure in the AFC South continues for Tennessee to see. I think Houston, they made a good hire for their head coach. They're getting either Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. The Colts have a new head coach. I still think they will undoubtedly try to get either Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. The Jags already have Trevor Lawrence and some good weapons around him. So the Titans better be ready to make some moves this offseason. But we'll talk about Titans a little bit. As I said, we're talking about the Super Bowl. I was rooting against the Eagles last night. I can't say I was rooting for the Chiefs, but I was rooting against the Eagles. We got to talk about referees. And the call that everybody's talking about today. A little less than 2 minutes to go in the Super Bowl. Tie football game. Chiefs have a 3rd and 8. And the Eagles, I think, had one timeout left. And you're in a situation where if you can hold them, the Chiefs are going to kick a field goal, a chip shot field goal, kind of take the lead. I say chip shot field goal, but Butker had already missed one in the game. But either way, Chiefs presumably going to go ahead, but the Eagles would have had a chance to come back down and tie this game because this was a great game. Very great Super Bowl. Everything's going great. We're tied 35 all. I mean, this is looking like one of those Super Bowls you might remember forever. And then holding, Mahomes throws an incompletion. It's a holding call against Bradbury for Philadelphia. Automatic first down. Chiefs pretty much take a knee, run the clock out, kick the easiest field goal in history to take the lead. Eagles got the ball back with 6 seconds to go, but it was over. And so, yet another big game where the leading story coming out of it is officiating. And it was a shame because I actually thought the referees had called a pretty good game up until that point last night. Letting the guys play. Didn't feel like the penalties and referees were a key part until that call. And like many of you, I was just furious. Like I said, I was rooting against the Eagles, but I mean, it was such a great game. You just wanted to see what would happen if the Eagles had a chance to go down and tie it. And if we went to overtime with these two, I mean, oh my gosh, it could be just an all-time great Super Bowl. And just like that, it's over with a holding call. And initially we're all mad because we just wanted to see a great ending to this great game. And like Luke said in the YouTube chat, you watch the replay, it's all over Twitter, it's all over ESPN today. Was it defensive holding? Technically, probably yeah. Yeah, and I know, penalties are penalties. Holding is holding. A foul is a foul. whether there's 2 minutes to go in the Super Bowl or 2 minutes to go in the first quarter of week 3. Okay? But it was not, to me, and maybe this is just me, and I think a lot of us are talking out of anger that we wanted to see a great ending to this game, but I didn't think it was so blatant. I didn't think it was so egregious that it just had to be called. And I know you're going to have people who say, hey, it was defensive holding. You've got to call it. But was it so blatant? Was it so obvious that we just had to have that with a little less than 2 minutes to go in the Super Bowl? You kind of been letting them play all night, and you're going to choose right then? Now, I will say there's a lot of people with this Arian Foster thing who are really running with the, oh, it's scripted, it's rigged, they wanted the Chiefs to win, blah, 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 blah. I know, we're trying to be funny here and all that. I do not believe the NFL is scripted or rigged, because if it was, if the NFL had the ability to rig games and script it out to who they wanted, first of all, don't you think the Super Bowl would be something like the Cowboys versus the Steelers? Like, or like the Packers versus, whoever. Like, don't you think that they would have some of their really big market teams in the Super Bowl if they had the ability to rig it? And also, if you wanted to rig it a certain way, wouldn't you want the Eagles to have a chance to come back down? Because wouldn't that make for the most entertaining thing? Why would you script something or rig something to be worse? Like, hey, let's ruin the game by throwing in a defensive holding. That's ridiculous. As far as the call, I get, technically, defensive holding, yeah, he grabbed him, and that was the receiver that Mahomes threw it to. Some people are arguing that the pass was not catchable, but then you have other people arguing that it would have been catchable if the guy wasn't held. Listen, it's just annoying. It's annoying because this is the Super Bowl, man. You're going to make that call. Like, again, if he grabbed the guy and threw him to the ground and what, or if he clearly grabbed his jersey and yanked him or something, yeah, you got to call it. But to see what it was, I mean, if you have to squint to kind of see where the holding happened, and again, Bradbury, the person who committed the penalty for Philadelphia, he owned up to it. He said, yeah, I held him. I was hoping they wouldn't see it. Good on him, I guess. Everybody associated with the Eagles is not trying to use it as an excuse. Just as somebody as a fan of the game watching the Super Bowl, come on. Like, unless it's just the most obvious, blatant penalty, can we keep the flags in our pocket? Come on. Anyway, you guys know how I feel about the referees as a whole. Roger Goodell just a few days ago in a press conference said that the NFL officiating has never been better. Don't take my word for it. Go look it up. I'm not just making up something or putting words in his mouth. That's what the commissioner of this league said. He said our officiating has never been better. So, once again, forget the call last night. We've seen it time and time again in playoff games, regular season games. These referees make game-changing, game-altering calls, and not only is there no accountability, no punishment, no nothing, they're praised for it. They're encouraged to keep doing it. It's not going to get any better. And you want to know why it's not going to get any better? To be fair, we're all going to tune in and watch no matter what. I mean, let's just be real. And Goodell knows it. You and me, we're gonna watch the games. The NFL is king. In terms of ratings and in terms of popularity, NFL reigns supreme. Always has, always will. And they know it. So they can do whatever stupid things they want to the rules and to the officiating. And yeah, it sucks, but we're going to watch. I will say, because Luke said this in the YouTube chat, imagine the Titans ever make the Super Bowl and lose on a bad call like that. I told some of my friends last night, I said, if that had been the Titans and that happened to them in that moment, I would be inconsolable. I would be out of my mind if that happened to the Titans. So, Eagles fans who are upset about it, I feel you. I feel you. Let's talk about, other than the penalty, it was a great game. I have said time and time again, I think that we as football fans, we're always eager to move on to the next big thing. We're always eager to find the next big superstar. And I think sometimes, even with a guy like Patrick Mahomes, we view him as like, okay, 2019, 2020, this guy was like, oh my goodness, he came onto the scene and he was unlike anything we'd ever seen. But now it's 2023, and we're kind of looking to some of these guys like Joe Burrow and Josh Allen and Justin Herbert and Jalen Hurts, and I'm not going to list too many guys because I'll forget somebody. We kind of look into these guys and saying, okay, here's the next star. Here's the next standard bearer. Here's the next guy who's going to be the guy in the NFL. I think Patrick Mahomes, not just last night, but this entire season, told everybody to hold their stinking horses for a second. Before we just anoint Burrow or Allen or Hurts or any of the rest, as great as they are, before we just anoint them, let's just hold on. Because Mahomes won the MVP, just played in his third Super Bowl, just won his second Super Bowl. I said it a couple of weeks ago on the podcast. Mahomes is still the guy, okay? No disrespect to those other dudes, because they are big time and they may all win titles at some point. But Mahomes, to me, he is still the standard bearer. He is still the one to beat. The start of this season, Tyreek Hill getting traded, a lot of people thought, hey, Chiefs might actually take a step back. I mean, we were ready to move on to Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. Nothing wrong with those guys, but, with Mahomes losing Tyreek Hill, it's like, all right, Chiefs won't be bad. They're not going to be bad, but they're going to take a step back probably without Tyreek Hill. Also, not to mention the outlook of their division at the start of the season. It was like, okay, we got Russell Wilson and the Broncos here. Uh-oh. We got the Raiders with Devontae Adams and some of the guys they picked up. Uh-oh. We got the Chargers with Justin Herbert and how good he is. Uh-oh. There was some talk about, man, somebody else may come along and win this division. And now, who's standing at the end of the day? Mahomes, man. The guy, it's like I said, you don't have to like him. You don't have to like him. There's a lot of people that didn't like Brady. You don't have to like him. But you can't just go out here and start lying about him. On a high ankle sprain that has bothered him and bothered him and bothered him, this dude has repeatedly just toted this team on his back. Showed heart, showed toughness, and a lot of people like to hate on him. And like I said, I think a lot of people like to hate on him just because of his brother. I think people are more prone to dislike him solely because they can't stand his brother on TikTok. But man, this narrative that he ain't tough and that he's soft and that he's, whatever, it's phony. It's made up. He won the MVP the other night, and he should have. He should have won MVP. He lost his best wide receiver. He goes out there with Juju Smith-Schuster, whose best days probably, I'm not going to say he can't contribute. Obviously, Juju Smith-Schuster had him a pretty good game last night in the Super Bowl. But it's not like he's just, nobody thinks of Juju as being like, oh, what a stud. He's good. But He ain't Tyreek Hill. They didn't have a Tyreek Hill. The Kansas City Chiefs did not have one elite wide receiver on the roster. They have Kelsey. I know Kelsey's a stud. Kind of annoying stud, but he's a stud. No elite wide receivers. Didn't matter. He didn't have T. Higgins. He didn't have Jamar Chase. He doesn't have A.J. Brown. He doesn't have Devontae Smith. He doesn't have Stephon Diggs. He didn't have, even some of the guys that Trevor Lawrence has in Jacksonville. He didn't even got them. Doesn't matter. The dude is special. You cannot deny. This is Patrick Mahomes, and he just getting started. Dude ain't even 30 yet. Just getting started, man. He's still the standard bearer. He's still the guy to beat. Proved it last night. Proved it this season. And I'm going to talk about the outlook in the AFC and the NFC both going into next season, because now is, I guess, the time to do that one day after the Super Bowl. But, the Chiefs are going to be back, man. As long as he's there, they're a contender. As far as the Eagles, man, I thought Jalen Hurts, everybody was just waiting on Jalen Hurts to fall apart this season. Even as great as he was playing, there were still people waiting on Jalen to kind of the shine to wear off. I think he proved last night, man. I think Jalen's here to stay. Especially in an NFC that just is kind of has no, he's the best quarterback in the NFC, and the drop off from 1 to 2 is substantial. He's the guy in the NFC, and will continue to be. And having AJ and having Devontae Smith, who's playing well, they get their defense and Goddard, who's a great tight end, they get their defense fixed. The Eagles' outlook going into the future is fine. And, they were there last night. They were there. They were right in that game and had every chance to win. And Jalen, with the exception of the fumble that they returned for touchdown, man, he made some unbelievable throws last night. So I think that Jalen Hurts has proved he's the real deal. Eagles looked good. I don't like Nick Sirianni. I think he's annoying, but he's done an unbelievable job as the head coach of that team, and they got a lot to be excited about going forward. And so there you go. There's the Super Bowl last night. Now let's talk about these Tennessee Titans right here. They were not at the Super Bowl last night. Again. And they have a new offensive coordinator. Tim Kelly, the offensive coordinator. We go from talking about the Super Bowl to talking about Tim Kelly. Probably the most predictable guy to get the job. I think everybody kind of expected that. He was already there. In-house guy. Titans already went outside of the organization to get a GM. You didn't think they were going to do it again with an offensive coordinator, did you? I don't know why they waited so long. I don't know why, if you're just going to give it to Tim Kelly, I don't know. Maybe there were just some other guys they wanted to kick the tires on and didn't work out. Maybe Vrabel had to do some convincing to Amy Adams Strunk that this was a good idea. If you've got to convince the owner it's a good idea, it's probably a good sign. I'm not, I just, listen, it's predictable. It's kind of boring. Not anything that anybody's going to be too excited about. But I'm not going to just say it's horrible. I don't know. Because, it's very similar to, you got to look at it this way. When the Titans gave the job to Todd Downing, everybody was like, "This is horrible. He's not going to be very good." And it turned out that he was terrible. He was bad at his job. Now, the difference with Downing is we knew, because he had been the offensive coordinator for the Raiders, he had a body of work to look at and be like, "Oh, he's bad. He's bad." We're hiring someone that we know has a history of being bad, right? So that's a different. I mean, Tim Kelly, we don't really have anything to go by. So I think there's a real similarity to a guy like Shane Bowen, the defensive coordinator. The Titans' defense was terrible in 2020 when then they gave the job to Shane Bowen. And remember, us Titans fans, man, we scream bloody murder about that. Oh, this is terrible. Oh my gosh, why are we giving this job to Shane Bowen? Well, Shane Bowen's done a pretty darn good job these last couple of seasons. He's done a good job. To the point where we're satisfied, pretty much. It's not perfect, but we're mostly pretty satisfied with the defensive side of things. So maybe lightning can strike twice with Tim Kelly being promoted to offensive coordinator. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, the most important thing for the Titans right now is to get some talent on this team. I mean, no matter who the offensive coordinator is, I'm glad they got rid of Downing. That was an important thing they needed to do. We remember talking about that, but they've got to figure out wide receiver position. We need more talent. And we saw last night with the Chiefs. Even if you don't have elite talent at wide receiver, if you've got a guy who's a stud at quarterback, he elevates guys that, are good, and he makes them great. We don't have a stud at quarterback right now. God bless Tannehill. If he's the guy they bring back, we don't have a stud at quarterback. If they go out and get a guy like Derek Carr or Jimmy G, we don't have a stud at quarterback. You're going to need to get a stud quarterback, or you're going to need to get some really elite talent on the outside. And, not to mention, we've got to totally rebuild the offensive line. We've talked about all of this. You've got to put this Tim Kelly in a position to succeed, and listen, two things can be true at once, guys. Number one, it is a fact that the team who runs the ball the best, especially in the postseason, is usually the team that has the most success. Kansas City ran the ball really well last night. They ran the ball really well in the entire playoffs. This Pacheco, man, what a runner he is. Okay? The Eagles, they ran the ball really well all season. They ran the ball really well in the playoffs. They ran the ball pretty well last night, just not as well as Kansas City. A team like Buffalo, they don't run the ball well at all. Look what happened to them. Cincinnati is another team. They run the ball really well. They've been in the AFC title game 2 years in a row. Went to the Super Bowl last year. So yes, I understand how important it is to have a good run game. I am totally on board with that. I know that is very important. With that being said, two things can be true at once. The Tennessee Titans are too reliant on the run game. And I love Derrick Henry. Just like I loved Eddie George. Just like I loved CJ2K. Ain't nothing against those guys. They deserve to get their carries. But the Titans' style of offense not going to get you in that game last night. It's not going to get you there. It can get you to the playoffs. It could even get you a playoff victory, but it's not going to get you to that stage last night. May have, 20 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago it might have. But right now in the NFL, it's not going to get you to the mountaintop. I'm not saying we shouldn't keep Derrick Henry. I'm not saying we shouldn't give him his carries. But you're not getting to that stage last night with just a great run game and nothing more. You've got... Now, to be fair, the Titans' best shot at doing it in the last 10 years was last year. And they might have, except for Tannehill, literally wet the bed in the playoffs. So maybe get you some talent at wide receiver or figure out what you're doing at quarterback. And yes, Derrick Henry can still get his carries. You can still run the ball well, but can we update this offense a little bit and start becoming more of a passing team, even if we're still running the ball a good bit? Can we please? Like, the Chiefs ran the ball well last night, and they ran the ball a good bit. But, like, they still, the smart money was on Mahomes through the air, okay? So, come on now. We got to update this offense. No matter, if you bring Henry back, which I fully expect them to do, you've got to update the philosophy of this offense. Vrabel said it himself in his after the season press conference. Said we centered the entire offense around Derrick Henry. Don't do that. Don't do that. Not that he shouldn't be a focal point of the offense, but I'm sick of hearing it every week during the regular season. Hey, if you want to stop these Titans, it runs through Derrick Henry. Well, maybe that's why we lost 7 games in a row to end the year and gave up the division to Jacksonville, who was like a billion games behind us. Like, come on. Let's update this offensive philosophy at least a little. Join the rest of us in 2023. But long way to go. Long way to go. Wide receiver, offensive line, quarterback, there's a lot to figure out. And the offseason has really only just begun. We got a long way to go. So when's preseason starts in August, right? March, April, May, June, July, August. These next 6 months are going to be interesting. You're looking at maybe the most interesting offseason that the Tennessee Titans have had in a long time. Because like I said earlier, Houston, I believe they made a good hire at head coach. They're going to be getting either Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud. Colts might be making a good hire as well. They might get either Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud. Jacksonville's going to be the safe pick that everybody's picking to win the South. How are you going to how are you going to keep from being the odd team out in this AFC South for the next few years? This is an important offseason. It is a major offseason for the Titans, and I don't know. It's going to be interesting to sit back and watch over these next 6 months leading up to the preseason starting in August. The draft, trades, free agency, re-signing guys, cutting guys, trading guys. It's going to be something. And it's exciting, but it's also terrifying. Looking at next season, you look at the layout of the NFC. Sitting there last night after the game, and I was thinking about who, like, you get past the Eagles in the NFC. It's like, who is there? Who is there in the NFC after the Eagles? Now, to be fair, last year I said the same thing about the Rams. It was like, okay, after the Rams, who is there? And now the Eagles kind of emerged, but really, maybe the Rams will be back. They had a terrible season this year, but they've still, can Stafford... If Stafford can be healthy, he can probably still be one of the better quarterbacks in the NFC because it's wide open. Maybe, Cooper Kupp and these guys get healthy and you give it another go. But I think it's understandable to have significant question marks about the Rams. The Cowboys, I think there's a ceiling with them. And lest we forget, they're in the same division as the Eagles. The Giants are okay, but like everybody else in the NFC nearly, they have major question marks. I just don't believe in Daniel Jones. The Vikings, unbelievable talent. The Vikings, this could be their time to really emerge. But like most of you, can they do it with Kirk Cousins? Yeah. I think no. Tampa Bay, they're totally starting over. So you take them out. So that NFC South, I don't even know. Who's the quarterbacks in that division? Derek Carr may very well go to the Saints. Falcons are going to go with Ritter probably. The Panthers might draft somebody. Who knows? And then Tampa Bay, who knows what they're going to do. The NFC, once you get past the Eagles, it's just wide open, man. Now, you compare that with the AFC. The AFC's tough. AFC's very tough. You already know the Chiefs are going to be back. As I said earlier, as long as Mahomes is the quarterback of that team, they're going to be around. The Broncos just hired Sean Payton. I know everybody laughs at the Broncos because Russell Wilson was such a disaster. But, I mean, Sean Payton, if ever there's a guy who could come in and turn it around for them, there's him. Miami, they looked very dangerous at times this year. If Tua comes back, he can stay healthy. They got a lot of speed. I'm looking at the Ravens. If they bring back Lamar Jackson, they were a playoff team this year and nearly won, nearly beat the Bengals. Oh, yeah, the Bengals. The Browns are going to have Deshaun Watson. The Steelers, Kenny Pickett didn't look bad. Jacksonville, I mean, the AFC, let's face it, as bad as we hate to say it, Titans fans, the AFC is stacked. It is stacked with teams that we know are going to be good, teams that we feel like may very well be good, and now Bryce Young might be joining the mix, and now C.J. Stroud might be joining the mix. Yikes. Yikes. Puts a knot in my stomach. Puts a knot in my stomach, guys. Makes you wish you were in the NFC, doesn't it? Yes, it does. But, maybe the Ravens will just trade Lamar Jackson to somebody in the NFC so we can at least get him out of there. But, yeah, interesting offseason awaits. But even teams like the Jets, a lot of people feel like the Jets are a quarterback away. Ugh. Makes me want to puke. Makes me want to puke thinking of the possibilities. But there you go. The 2022-2023 season officially in the books. If you're a Chiefs fan watching this, congratulations. You guys did it again. Chiefs are the champs. And hey, let me say this. Now that the season is over, kind of about to be a little dead time in the NFL for the next little bit, I'm going to take a couple weeks off of the podcast. I'm sorry. I'm going to take a couple weeks off, few weeks off, come back getting ready for the draft here soon. I'm going to take a few weeks off because now there's going to be some dead time and I don't want to just come on here saying the same thing every week. So, taking a few weeks off of the podcast after this episode. Everybody take it easy and enjoy these next couple weeks of not much going on with the Titans and the NFL because it's about to get crazy. And we'll be along for the ride. But I'm taking a few weeks off. Congrats to the Chiefs. 2022 season's in the books. This is the Two Tone Talk podcast. Staying way too high on the wins, way too low on the losses. Thank you guys for listening. You guys are the best. Bye, everybody.
Stomp 'em in the ground, said to stomp 'em in the ground. You need to stomp 'em in the ground. They always got something to say now. Yeah, never satisfied. They'll never say it to your face, no. But they'll